Hi, this is Dr. Georgia. I hope you find today's message a blessing in your life. We want to make sure that we continue to provide these video messages for you when you can't come to church, or for those of you who live in a different state, or we noticed recently we have a lot of people in even different countries who are tuning in. So if that is you and you can donate to us, we invite you to hit that donate button just below the message here. So thanks so much. Well, it's so great to see how many people came out this morning. You know, we thought, because last night was a big crowd on Saturday night, so we thought, oh, we might have 3 or 4 rows filled up here today, but how great it is. Let's prepare ourselves and put your hand over your eyes. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. And now your ears, I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. And now if you cross over your heart and just extend out your arms, I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth that I'm working with today is that we live in an unlimited universe and we can have it all. We live in an unlimited universe and we can have it all. Now I'm going to tell you that sometimes that makes me uncomfortable to say it because I'm never quite sure how people are hearing it. And I know that there are folks who are not in New Thought who kind of see us as a group of people who are just trying to learn how to manifest for ourselves. Just manifest a comfortable life, manifest this, manifest that, and that's all they see of us. You know, and here is the thing. There is nothing wrong with manifesting and learning how to manifest a comfortable life. In fact, Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith says, look, that's the foundation of kingdom consciousness. Learning how to take care of yourself through spiritual laws, learning how to live comfortably, not always worried about where the next nickel is going to come from, that is the basis of kingdom consciousness. Now we want to go deeper and we want to go higher, but we got to get that carried first. But we understand we're not a church that took a vow of poverty. We understand that scraping by is not what God sent us here to do. We get it, that if we have nothing, we have nothing to share. We get all that. But we are much more than a group of people who are trying to manifest a date or a car or a sales lead. We get that. We know that. But we're a generous tribe. We're a concern for other people tribe. We're a sharing tribe. That's why we have this table of generosity bags for people to just go out of here and be equipped to help and share with the folks who are out on the streets. We get that. Our theme, in fact, is unleashing compassion, generosity, and social justice. But I'm coming to believe that there is something even greater to share than coats and food for the poor, although that's important. There's something greater to share than our money for Houston and Mexico and Florida, although right now that's critically important. There's even something greater to share than our own spiritual principles, which are the most important thing to share, but I think there's something even more important than that. I think the more important thing is to share the 6 greatest words in any language. The 6 greatest words in any language are, I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what. But here, before we can love one another, we need to stop hiding from each other, because we have these masks that we think we need in order for people to say, I love you no matter what. We think we have to look good. We have to have a mask. I mean, we all have them. We've all dropped some and have more. I've dropped some masks. I used to try and make people think I was straight. I even wore a dress and heels. That was not a good idea. It didn't work out too well. But we all have masks. We need to begin to learn how to drop them. Because here's the thing. We tend to spend too much time trying to be known for something. whether it's the smartest person or the richest person or the person who's the kindest or whatever it is. We spend so much time trying to be known for being something. But what happens when we don't measure up? And more importantly, what happens when you don't measure up to you? If you're like me, when you're trying to be known for something and you don't measure up to yourself, you start pretending. You get the pretend game on. The mask gets on even a little better. You know, I have friends who are married, and every marriage goes through ups and downs, doesn't it? If you've been married, you know it just goes through ups and downs. I've got friends who are going through a down period in their marriage. They come into a church like this, and they're holding hands, and they got a smile pasted on their face. Nobody knows what's going on with them. I have people who are going to work in workplaces in which they are totally miserable about something that's going on in work. And they're not doing a very good job. But if you ask them how work's going, great. They love me there. It's perfect. Even though they just got called in the day before. Because they think that in order to hear, I love you, you have to be perfect. I have people who have kids. You know, kids don't grow up in a straight line like that, do they? If you're a parent, you know the kids are up and down and up and down and up and down. And sometimes kids go through very challenging growing up periods. And I got parents who will drive up to churches in their minivan, and they got their kids' masks tight on them. And they say, don't you let anybody in the church know what's going on here. And the kids learn how to put on masks when that happens. And that's the very time we need to hear the most. I love you no matter what. You know, when we put on a mask and people say they love us, what goes in our head, I think, is that we think they're in love with the illusion of us. Because they don't know who we are, really. They're in love with the Instagram us. They're in love with the social media us. You know, people put social media posts on and we think their life is absolutely perfect. While they're crying inside and nobody knows that. Because they've got that mask so clearly on. But the truth is, you are enough right now, no matter what you're going through, you are enough. You know, Jesus said that we must learn to become like little children if we want to enter the kingdom of heaven. Well, the kingdom of heaven is all around us. So it's time now for us to begin to drop these pretenses. You know, I heard of a little boy who was in the first grade. That's a little, you know, that's 6 or 7. First grade. And his school was going to have, his class was going to have a little play. And he came home and he told his mom, I'm going to get a part in this play. I want to be in the play. And he kept at it and he kept at it. Every day he'd come home and he'd say, I'm going to be in the play. One day it's time for the parts to be given out at the play. And so he goes off to school. He's very excited about this because he knows he's going to get a part in the play. He knows he's enough. So he goes to school. She's worried. All morning she's worried what's going to happen. I wonder what if he doesn't get a part. So she decides to drive to school and pick him up because she didn't want him to walk home if he was upset and sad. So he comes out of the schoolhouse and he runs into the car, and she can see he's happy. He must have gotten a part in the play. So the mom says to him, well, what part did you get chosen for? And he said, I'm chosen to clap and cheer. For him, that was enough. He had a part. He didn't have to make anything up. Like, oh, it wasn't fair. No, I got a part. I'm good. We need to do that. So instead of putting our attention on being known for something, and you know, those of you who are visiting today, that's all churches like this do, is we learn how to shift our consciousness. We learn how to put our attention somewhere else when our life isn't good. That's what shifting consciousness means. It means put your attention somewhere else. That's all we do here, is learn how to change our thinking, which changes our feelings, and once our feelings are changed, our life begins to reorganize itself. Our life begins to change. We don't have to do anything else. Change our thinking, changes our feelings, which changes our life. We need to change our thinking from wanting to be known for something to be wanting to be known by someone's, by other people in our life. And what better place to drop the mask than at a church? See, we all need a place where we can go where we're not rejected, where we feel positive, we're not judged, and it should be here. The truth is, as hard as this is to say, I wonder how many people in this church really know us. I wonder how many people in this church can actually say, I love you no matter what, and they know what it is they're talking about. See, we all need relationships to be able to drop this pretense. And in this teaching, we especially need them. Because this teaching, which preaches positive thinking and positive life, which is what we teach and what we want, sometimes we misunderstand that to be happy life all the time. And I'm here to tell you, you are not a bad metaphysician. If you are sitting here this morning and you are worried about a diagnosis, you are not a bad metaphysician because you're worried. If you've been through bankruptcy once or twice or more times, you are not a bad metaphysician. If you are in your fourth relationship, serious relationship, and you notice that fourth relationship is beginning to circle the drain, you are not a bad metaphysician. You're not a bad metaphysician for any of that. It's exactly when we need to hear those 6 most important words in any language. I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what. See, if this church and every church and every ashram and every mosque and every synagogue and every coven had people in it that would help to create an atmosphere where everybody could drop the mask. When you came in the door, you had no mask on. I'm telling you, we wouldn't just have a Saturday night service and a Sunday service, 2 Sunday services. We'd be having services all the time, and people would be out around the building trying to get in. Why? Because being in the presence of people who are real is one of the best feelings in the world. It's one of the best feelings in the world. People who are in recovery, we get that. Because, you go in, nobody's talking BS in those rooms. We're all talking real stuff about real things in our lives. And it feels good. When we hear somebody else doing it, we want to do it. In fact, to tell you the truth, people who run recovery centers where people go in and leave, they kind of get worried about that, because when you go into a recovery center and all of a sudden for the first time in your whole life, people have dropped the mask. They are who they are. All of a sudden we want to marry them. We're not in a room full of healthy people, by the way, at that point. But we want to marry them anyway. Why? Because it feels so good, so right to be in the company of people who are being true. The greatest gift you can give anybody else is to be real. Because when you're real, they can be real. But until you're real, nobody else can be. Because can't you feel it? Can't you spot it a mile away when somebody's not being real? And what you do is you pull that mask down a little more, because you say, this is not a safe place to be. Here we come to church. When we come to church, we want to make that. We want to be able to be real. Well, how do we do that? Reverend Georgia, look, I tell my therapist the real stuff in my life. That's great. And I appreciate therapists. And I appreciate therapy. And I know there are therapists in the room right now who are working hard to help us drop that mask. But that's once a week if you have the money. What if you had a whole church, a whole bunch of people who are helping you drop the mask by dropping their own mask? It's the purpose of the church. You've heard of the First Baptist Church and the First Methodist Church and the First Lutheran Church. This church used to be called, when I first came here and I took the charter, there hadn't been a church here in 15 years when I came here, but it still had its charter. And the charter said it was the First Church of Religious Science of Sacramento. So there are a lot of first churches. There was a First Church of Jerusalem. It's the First Church of Jerusalem that was pastored by a man named James, who was the brother of Jesus. And James said, the purpose of church is to get everybody to be real and feel safe. That's the purpose of church. In fact, he wrote in the Bible, therefore confess your sins to one another and pray that one another can be healed. Therefore, confess your sins to one another and pray that one another can be healed. Now remember, if you're visiting here, what we think of as a sin is somebody who made a mistake. The word sin simply is an archery term from the Aramaic language, the language of Jesus, which simply means, I missed the mark. That's what a sin is. It's a mistake. I missed the mark. We've gotten into a lot of emotional baggage. We can take that away now. Confess your mistakes. So pray for one another that we can be healed. Now look, I'm not going to ask you to turn to your neighbor and confess your sins. That'd just be weird. And I'm weird, but I'm not that weird. Okay? All right. So we can't do this in rows. You can't take off the masks in rows. Taking off the masks requires circles. And that's why in this church we have embarked on creating circles for us to go to, so that we can begin to talk about what's real in our lives. Talk about when our marriages are going through hard times. Talk about when our kids are going through hard times. Because I promise you, once you do that in a circle, you will hear those words, I love you, no matter what. In some form, somebody's going to say to you, I love you, no matter what. And the fact that you have just been real and heard real talk back is healing. It's absolutely healing in our life. We have a lot of circles here. I'm going to invite you. Foundations, if you haven't taken foundations, come be with me for 10 weeks while we talk about what's real as we talk about basic spiritual principles in your life. But it's not only the classes. We have a women's circle, we have a men's circle, we have a people of color circle, we have an LGBTQ circle, we have a grief circle, we have a drumming circle. We have tons of circles. I can't even remember all of the circles. And if you think, I don't like any of those circles, you just go into Brooks Hall where we have a sign-up sheet that says, you want a circle? Tell us what it is. And we'll make it happen. Because we want to be an atmosphere where we can be absolutely real in our lives. Now, when I started writing this sermon, the whole focus of the sermon was just this. How can we take off the masks? Just reminding us to take off our masks and be real with one another. But then Spirit kept nagging at me. You know, Spirit ever nag at you? Yeah, I don't like that so much. But, and said, you know, it's not only a matter of individuals taking off their masks, although that's important, but it's also a matter of creating an atmosphere in which everybody who walks through those doors feels safe to take off their masks. Now, you can't just do that by saying it. You have to do it by changing some behaviors and being aware of how we are on the planet. So I'm going to share with you in a minute some microaggressions. Microaggressions are things that people say that are unconscious, and they hurt the feelings of the person who is hearing them. They are not said out of meanness. In fact, I'm going to tell you, I have said some of the things that I'm going to say, that I'm going to show you. Why? Not because I'm mean, not because I wanted to hurt somebody's feelings, but because I wasn't aware. So we're going to endeavor to up-level our awareness around how we approach other folks, especially folks who don't look like us. Now, this is a very small microcosm of microaggressions. I found them easily, but I could bring up microaggressions that happen to older people, to people who are overweight, to people who are handicapped, all kinds of them. But I'm going to use these. These are actual microaggressions that happen to the kids that wrote these out. Now I'm going to ask you to be careful here, because I'm going to ask you not to laugh, and the tendency is going to be to laugh. Not because you think you want to hurt anybody's feelings even more, but because your brain is going to say, I can't believe somebody said that. And you're going to want to laugh. Okay? The reason I don't want you to laugh is because I did this in Santa Rosa last week while I was there, and I forgot to ask people not to laugh. And what happened is, a woman of color came up to me and she said, you know, when you allowed people to laugh at those, it hurt my feelings because it made me feel even less safe here. Now, I don't believe those people were laughing at, I think the people were laughing because they couldn't believe it. But to the ears of the person who heard the laughter, it was painful. So please, try not to laugh. We're going to just go through them real quickly. This is a biracial woman. What are you? She writes back human, because being biracial doesn't make me a what? This woman, who was probably from Connecticut, said, no, where are you really from? You don't look like a normal black person, you know? Just because I'm Mexican doesn't mean I should be the automatic choice for Dora the Explorer in our school play. So what does your hair look like today? She said, as she pulled my hat off without my permission. The limited representation of my race in your classroom does not make me the voice of all black people. Can you see as much as white people? You know, because of your eyes. When I gave a speech about racism, the MC introduced me as Jaime Garcia. My name is Jaime Rodriguez. Not all Latinos have the last name Garcia. You're really pretty for a dark-skinned girl. Now those all happened to the kids, the young people who wrote those up there. And I share them with you not out of shame, because there's no point in that. It doesn't do anybody any good. Like I said, I got in an Uber not a month ago with a guy with a turban. And for some reason, God only knows, I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Las Vegas. Could I leave it there? No. Well, I mean, where were you born? Las Vegas. What we want to do is not beat ourselves up. What we want to do is to use this to just be careful. Just be careful so that we can create the atmosphere that we want in here, because that's what's in our heart. Let's take this message into prayer, knowing that there's only one power. It's the power of love that runs right through me, and if I get out of my own way and let that power go through, then I know I'm doing what I was sent here to do, which is simply to express love. That's it. Not to fix anybody, not to change anything, just to express love. And when I can do that, my heart is full and the planet is better. I give thanks for that. I release His word into the law, and together we say, and so it is.